Okay, so our next test is on solving log equations. You'll have to know all these properties, which we already tested on just yesterday, and they'll use those properties to solve logs. All right, this one's 9 squared to be 81, make it negative, and then it's not negative 81 though, it's 1 over 81. This one, you don't know what the square root of 5 is, so the 1/2 power, you just say square root of 5, and then you put a 1 over it because of the negative. And how about this one? That breaks into 3 parts. Would you please write this one down in your notes? Write it as 27 to the something to the something to the something. You break this into 3 parts. Remember, this is the part where I said make it smaller before you make it bigger, and then the negative at the end just makes it flip. That's the kind of thing you'd have to do if we don't allow calculators in this next test. Got to be good at that stuff. So it's 27 to the what? 1/3 to the second to the -1. Get that? All right. All right, here we go. So, had to pause for a second there. This one is 3. 3 squared makes it 9. Put to the -1 makes it 1/9. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Good. See, this won't be that bad if you don't have a calculator, as long as you can do that. Change between forms. Is this in log form? Yes, it is. Write it as an exponential right now. Engage that part of your brain that does the writing. It's generally the back part of your brain because it's a motor skill. I know that because when I studied the brain, I thought, that's why they always hit people over the back of the head. And if you hit them too hard, that back part of your brain is the most primitive part of your brain and therefore controls what do you think. Your heart, your breathing, that kind of stuff. Because it's the that part of your brain is super important. Okay, anyway. True. You can still be alive and yet not, really. So it's the front part of your brain that controls a lot of your higher order thinking. The stuff that makes us human instead of an animal. You can still be an animal, so to speak, if you have this part of your brain still working and still function. But all right, anyway. So this should be e to the there's nothing up there. I could put x. E to the x equals 10. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Okay, good. This other one could be written as a log. Log base 9 of 8 equals x. And that's all ready to put into a calculator, but what if they don't allow calculators? Then you just say it was log 8 over log 9. Or you'd have to be able to handle things like this. What if this was a 3? Then you could do it in your head. Because you'd say, well, I could write this 3 as a 9 to the what? 1/2, and therefore the answer is what? 1/2. See how you don't have to have a calculator if you know the properties? I'll give you another one like that. Let's say it was log base 8 of 2. You could rewrite that too as a what? 8 to the something. 8 to the what would give you 2. 8 to the 1/3. So the answer to this is 1/3. Okay, this one. 7 to the x equals 8. Well, if you wanted to solve it, you want to rewrite it as a log. Log base 7 of 8 equals x. Is this solved for x? Yes, it is. Some people think, but you haven't figured out what log 8 over log 7 is. But x is alone. It's solved for x. That's the answer. It is solved for x. All right, moving on. This one. That's where they put the x in the base. Then it's x to the second equals 25. Can you do that in your head? Yeah, it must be a 5. It's 5 squared to be 25. Or if it's harder than that, let's say this would be like the 9th or something. You put this to the inverse power, so 1/2 power. 1/2 power. 25 to the 1/2. It's 5. One more option is maybe they put the x here. if the x is right there, you can solve it again, rewriting. It's so important to be able to rewrite. Is that something you could do if you had enough time? No. They might say 5 to the third. 5 to the third would be 125. All right. This one. If they said solve for x, what could you say? It is solved, except it needs to be simplified, and the answer would be what? 2. Because this could be written as 5 squared, and then therefore the answer is 2. If these two are the same, then that's the answer. Okay, moving on. These have got to be like second nature to you. What's this one? 0. What's this one? No answer. What's this one? Well, I got to rewrite this 9 as 9 to the -1. So what's the answer? -1. What's the answer on this one? Not e. Nope. 8. Because this is e to the log base e of 8. And if these two are the same, that's the answer. The answer is 8. Okay. ln e. 1. Yeah, the buzzing is my iPhone is trying to send messages to aliens. And this one? 4. Good. Okay, log 30. If I wanted to expand it, do you agree I could break that into log of 3 times 10? Then that would be log 3 plus log 10. Do you get that? I just expanded it. If I expanded this one, it would take me like 20 minutes because it's such a pain because there's so many parts to it. But the first part would be to break up the log 3x and the log with a minus because it's a divide problem, and the log of 8x cubed y. But then I'd have to break this part up into log 3 plus log x, and I had to break this part up, and when I got to the middle part, the log x cubed, and I'd put the 3 down in front. You remember all that? All right, that's all going to come back. Condensing. What does this mean? This is a plus, which means I could put them together and say log base 7 of 20 times 3, which would mean it was 60. What would this one be? It would be log base 6 of 70 over 7, which would be 10. Log base 6 of 10. All right, you might be asking, why are we going over all these properties? Because here is a typical way you would use the properties to get an answer on the next test we have. Look at that top one. Write it down, please. Condense the left-hand side, and I think you'll see the answer. And then the back row, I had a question. I heard the 20 times 3 and then what? Can, but it doesn't have to. Since it's a single number, single numbers don't have to go in parentheses. They can. All right. How about this next one? Do you get how this would be log? Oops. Log base 7 of 10 over 5 equals log base 7 of x, and then if this is the same as this, then this has to be the same as this. So in that case, x is 2. All right. One more super important kind. This might blow your mind. The test that you're going to have is going to have logs in quadratics. Now quadratics, you've been done in like 10 different ways since higher algebra. Heck, you were doing them probably even in algebra. You did a little bit with quadratics. Back in those days, you probably just graphed them and saw that, ooh, look neato, where it touches here and here, those are the answers. Okay, but then you also learned that I could set this equal to 0 and this equal to 0 to find the two answers. So one of them is 4, and this one will be negative 3 over 2. Remember doing those? Okay, so what are these going to look like? They're not going to be that simple because that's quadratics that you learned long ago. These are going to have, wherever there's an x, it'll be a log x. So for example, here is the problem. Write this down. 2 log x parentheses plus 3 log x minus 4 parentheses equals 0. Write this in your notes. You need one good example under your belt of solving a quadratic that's got logs in it. Okay, now, in quadratics, we just said a second ago that we could just set this equal to 0 and find out that that x was 4. Well, that means I can take this and set it equal to 0. Underneath it, please write log x minus 4 equals 0. So then log of x equals 4. Now, do you remember what base this has if I haven't been saying it all along? 10. Therefore, solve it. Come on, you can do this. 10 to the 4th must equal x. It's just rewriting it from a log to an exponential. And I can do 10 to the 4th in my head. It's a 1 with 4 zeros. 10,000. Is the answer really 10,000? That's what you should be asking. How do you check? You actually go back and you put it in. And you see if it actually works. Now, if that's true, I could take a calculator and go log of 10,000 and see if it's really 4. And if it is, then it worked. Somebody with a calculator, just make sure that I'm not going crazy. Is that right? Okay. So now, how could I have checked it without a calculator? Watch this. Log of 10,000 is something you can do in your head easy. I want this to equal 4, right? I want to see if it really does. What base does it have? Your brain's a lot more powerful than you think. And then, oh, I can rewrite the 10,000 as what? 10 to the 4th, and then the answer's going to be 4. Because if this becomes 10 to the 4th, then I got a 10 and a 10, and the answer's 4. And 4 minus 4 would be 0, and it works. I know it works. So 10,000 is one of my two answers. All right. What's the other answer? I want you to take a second. Solve this side. Set it equal to 0. Come on, stay with me. Take that one. Set it equal to 0. Now, some of you might be saying, wait a minute, you can't have negatives in these things. You can have negatives in the exponents. Remember, we have negative exponents all the time. You can't have a negative here, and you can't have a negative here. You can have a negative there. So it's okay. We haven't done anything wrong yet. Okay. Yes? Yep. It could be if you wanted to go put it there, but that would make it a lot harder to solve this problem. It'd be easier to do what I just did. Actually, it could work. Somebody was just asking, couldn't I put this as log x squared equals negative 3? That could work. Just got to remember what the base is. The base is 10. So I'm going to do it here in black, and I'll finish what my answer in black. I go 10 to the negative 3 halves equals x. Is it solved for x? Yes, x is alone. I've got the answer. Now, could I write that another way? I suppose I probably could, but this is the kind where it's a little too intense for a person to do in their brain. You could write it as square root of 10, because that's what that little 2 down there means. And then you'd cube it, and then you'd put the negative, which makes it 1 over. So 1 over the square root of 10 cubed. I don't think that's any prettier than what we had in the first place. So that would have been good enough right there. Now, somebody asked, could I have done this thing over here? Yes, you could have done this thing over here. And said, put the 2 back up into the exponent here. Then you'd go 10 to the negative third equals x squared. And then guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to end up with the same answer. I'm going to put it to the 1/2 power. And I'm going to end up with 10 to the negative 3 over 2 power equals x. Two perfectly good ways to do it that come out to the exact same answer. All right. That is enough mind-blowing for a Friday. So let's do the first problems together on the homework. We have, let me see, 7 plus 8 is 15 minutes left. I think we have time for you to grab books. So go over, grab a book, leave me a cell or a shoe, or if you brought your own book, awesome. Your assignment is out of the book. I don't want you just sitting there, so one or the other. Either get yours out or borrow one of mine. And it's page 331, 2 through 18 even, which is 9 questions to you or me, and then 25 and 26, which would make it 11 questions. And a lot of them are really easy, so it's really not too bad. If any of you guys are friends and could sit next to each other and share a book, that would be wonderful, because I'm not sure I have enough books. Okay. Numero dos. Some of you guys have been lazy slugs lately and leave the books underneath your desk instead of bringing them back. Please don't do that. Then it gets complicated for the next hour. Okay, here we go. Number 2. 32 times, parentheses, 1/4 to the x over 3 equals 4. No, I'm wrong. Equals 2. All right. First point here is we're solving for x. We're trying to get the x alone. So we need to get rid of stuff until the x is eventually alone. The first thing you get rid of is the 32. Divide by 32. Divide by 32. Might want to write this one out. Get caught up. And now I got it down to 1/4 to some goofy power, x over 3, is equal to 1. I'm reducing 2/32 to 1/16. All right, so how do I fix this now? What is the whole last week been about? Somebody stop their cell phone from buzzing? That'd be nice. Is it me? I don't think it's me. Oh, it's one of the ones up here. Oh, it is. Oh, it's this one. Okay. Okay, so you need to use logs. That's the point of this whole unit, is logs. So log base 1/4 of, and then you go to the other side over here, 1/16 equals x over 3. There it is. Now, if that isn't just flowing naturally for you, it's probably because you're not thinking of this 1/16 as the 1/4 that it could be. In other words, I could write this as a 1/4, couldn't I? 1/4 to the what? So now if I write this as log base 1/4 of 1/4 squared, now this problem becomes super simple. Because now what's this whole side over here? 2. And now it's 2 equals x over 3, and if you can't solve that, we got to move you back to class. So 6 equals x. Finis. Now, I know some of you are thinking, I would have never figured that out. It does not say in your directions that you can't use a calculator. I think, does it, or does it? Yeah, it doesn't say you can't. So, you could use a calculator. If you'd have had to do, you know, to be honest though, catching this, for compared to all the parentheses that I have to put in the calculator, it'd probably be easier to just know this, be able to do this in your head. But if you don't, you could have used a calc. You'd have stuck this into your calculator right here, and you'd have gotten All right. I think you're going to be able to handle these. You just rewrite them as logs. You start by dividing by 3 on number 4 there. You divide by 3 on both sides. And 96 divided by 3 is like, what, 32. And so then you got 4 to the x over 2 equals 32. And then you rewrite it as a log. Let's say log base 4 of 32 equals x over 2. And then this, some people last hour thought there was no way that you'd have to use a calculator to do this one. I just want to show you, you could do this with your brain. Do you get 32 is really 2 to the 5th? So if I write this as 2 to the 5th, now I'm really, really close. If I could rewrite that 2 as a 4 somehow, then I'd have it. What could I rewrite the 2 as? 4 to the 1/2, yes. If I make this a 4 to the 1/2 to the 5th power, then this and this are the same. So that's the answer. So 5 over 2 equals x over 2. So you didn't have to have a calculator even to do that one. There are other ways you could have done this. What did you just ask me? Oh, okay. I took and rewrote my 32 as 2 to the 5th. Do you get that 2 to the 5th is 32? And then I wanted to rewrite this so that it wouldn't have a 2 as a base, but it would have a 4. So how do I rewrite a 2 as a 4? I make the 2 into 4 to the 1/2 power. Because 4 to the 1/2 power is 2. So now that is the same thing as 2 to the 5th. I know, that was pretty tricky and intense stuff there, but all right, so your assignment is 11 questions, and I just did the first 2 of them, so can't complain too much. Now I'm aware this is a Friday and you're kind of tired and stuff, but this is I tried to pack in a lot of stuff so that we really don't have too much to learn between now and the next test you take. We've learned most everything. Just kind of have to put it together. So there's one more kind, those quadratics we talked about briefly. There's one more day we got to spend on talking about those because those quadratic ones can be pretty tricky. Okay, that's it for today.